My name's David Mercer. I'm 38, white, and I make my living turning wrenches at a local garage in Scranton, Pennsylvania. I don't talk much unless it's about carburetors or ball joints. I'm the kind of guy you pass at a Sheetz and forget 5 minutes later. Been clean 8 years. That part matters. The day my sister died, I was under a '99 Civic that smelled like mouse piss and stale French fries. It was just past noon when my phone rang, my old flip phone, because I still don't trust smartphones ever since one tried to cook my knee with a lithium fire. I saw the hospital name on the screen and got that sinking stomach, the kind you don't get unless you've already lived too many lives in one lifetime. Are you the emergency contact for Megan Mercer? There's no gentle way to say it. She was dead. Fentanyl. Again. I just stood there under the Civic, the fluorescent light buzzing like a gnat over my head. Didn't say a word for a good 30 seconds. Then I thanked the nurse, why, I don't know, and hung up. I didn't cry. Not then. I slid out from under the car, wiped my hands, told Jimmy at the desk I needed to go. He looked at my face and didn't ask questions. The thing is, I knew. Deep down, I knew it was coming. Megan had been skating on the edge since our mom died. Oxy at first. Then she met Colton, and that was like putting kerosene next to a space heater. He was the kind of guy who wears flat-brim hats and mirror-lens sunglasses indoors. One of those dudes who talks about his grind set while his car insurance lapses. Megan said he used to be sweet. I saw through him the second he called my car a whip. When I got to the hospital, she was already in the morgue. The nurse gave me a clipboard like that was going to make any of it make sense. Cause of death, suspected fentanyl overdose, pending toxicology. Standard form. Standard shrug. I asked if they were investigating it as a possible distribution case. The nurse gave me a look I've seen before, the one that says another junkie, another waste, and told me that was up to law enforcement. Megan had been clean for 2 months. I knew because I was helping her through the withdrawal. We talked just 4 days ago. She told me she was getting out. Said she was going to block Colton. I told her I was proud of her. Now she was a tag on a toe. The funeral was small. Closed casket. I couldn't handle seeing her like that. Colton showed up in a wrinkled flannel and sunglasses, looking like he was auditioning for a Lifetime movie about remorse. Cried on cue, sniffled once, then disappeared before we even made it to the cemetery. My uncle called him a good kid going through stuff. I said nothing. I was too busy watching the way he walked, calm, composed, like someone who knew no one would touch him. That's when something broke inside me. Not grief. Not rage. Something colder. Quieter. That was the day I stopped mourning and started watching. I don't know how other people grieve. I know how I do. I clean things. Tools, mostly. After the funeral, I stayed late at the shop and scrubbed every socket wrench and screwdriver until my hands were raw. Then I took home Megan's laptop and phone. I wasn't supposed to have either. The hospital gave me her personal effects because I was listed as next of kin, and the cop who showed up did a 10-minute sweep of her room, asked a few obligatory questions, and left with a shrug. They didn't take the electronics. Didn't even look twice. I'm no detective, but even I know you don't ignore the digital trail of a dead 28-year-old with a history of opioid use in a town where overdoses outnumber potholes. I didn't sleep that night. I opened her laptop and started digging. Megan wasn't tech-savvy. She didn't password protect anything. Her cloud account had automatic sync turned on, and what I found there felt like someone slicing my insides with a box cutter, one text message at a time. There were Venmo payments to usernames like JX420 and Fuel4You. Messages with dollar signs and emojis that only made sense if you knew the code. Pictures of pills lined up on a glass table next to Colton's vape and his always immaculate fingernails. And then there was the group chat. It was called Drops, lowercase, like they couldn't even be bothered to pretend it wasn't what it was. There were 5 people in it, including Megan. They talked in half code, like G needs 20 blues near the tracks, ASAP, and big mix-up last drop, don't pack and glove next time. I spent an hour scrolling through it, jaw clenched so tight I thought I'd crack a molar. Colton was in it too. Under the name Blaze. Of course. I copied everything, texts, pictures, payment histories, even some voicemail audio where he told Megan not to piss off the buyers if she didn't want things to get complicated. His voice sounded like a snake in a microwave. It made my skin crawl. The next morning I went to the Scranton PD. I'd printed everything out in a binder, highlighted messages. Even included a short write-up explaining the street names, slang, and patterns. I'd done the job for them. They sat me in a room that smelled like old coffee and linoleum. Some detective, Martinez, maybe, I don't remember, flipped through 3 pages, asked if Megan had a criminal record, then told me they'd look into it. I could see the garbage bin behind his desk, half filled with reports just like mine. "You think this guy's a dealer?" he asked. "I think he's part of a fentanyl distro network and using women to run it," I said. He blinked. "That's an allegation. It's evidence," I replied. "Do you want to stop people from dying? Or are you just filling chairs?" He didn't like that. The meeting ended 5 minutes later. They never called me back. That night, I sat on my porch with a cigarette I shouldn't have lit, staring into the dark, and realized something important. This wasn't just about Colton. It was about all of them. The ones who looked away. The ones who said, "Not our problem." The ones who let my sister die because she didn't come wrapped in a PDA cardigan. Well, I came from the same streets Megan did. And I don't scare easy anymore. Grief turns into something else when it has nowhere to go. Some people drink. Some people punch walls. I charted overdoses on a damn map. It started with a legal pad and a Sharpie. I wrote out names I'd heard at Megan's funeral. Then names from the Drops chat. I went through every text, every screenshot, cross-referenced addresses, timestamps. Then I pulled public data from the county medical examiner's website. You'd be amazed what's just sitting there if you know how to dig. Unattended deaths, OD statistics, autopsy logs that read like a phone book of the forgotten. Between January and September, 27 people had overdosed within 5 square miles of my sister's apartment. 16 were fatal. 11 were within 2 blocks of where Megan used to drop off packages. Tell me that's a coincidence. So I did what the cops wouldn't. I started mapping. Used a garage whiteboard to make a crude layout of the neighborhood. Pinned every address. Megan's texts gave me at least 9 drop locations. Colton's Venmo gave me 3 more. Every time a name matched the medical examiner's list, I circled it in red. The whiteboard started to look like a war room, and in a way it was. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. Not at first. But one night, while I was closing up the shop, Jimmy, the other mechanic, asked if I was okay. I just said, "Doing some personal research." He nodded like that made perfect sense. In our line of work, nobody pries. Half the guys who bring their trucks in are running from something anyway. A few days later, I finally got in touch with Ashley. She and Megan were friends in high school, drifted apart, then ended up back in the same crowd when pills started flooding Scranton like floodwater in a basement. I heard she was clean now, living in a halfway house run by a local church. When I showed up, she looked at me like I was either a ghost or a cop. I had to tell her what happened 3 times before she believed me. She cried. Then she got quiet. Then she told me everything. Colton hadn't just been Megan's boyfriend. He'd been her handler. That was the word she used. Handler. Like Megan was livestock. He fronted her pills, Ashley said. Told her she could earn her way out. Drop a few off here, make a delivery there. He'd even make her wear a waitress outfit once. Said it helped her blend in. Blend in, I repeated, stunned. Yeah, at the college bars. Said she looked like she was on shift. I didn't speak. I was afraid if I opened my mouth, something awful would come out. He always had this way of making you feel like you owed him, she continued. And if you tried to stop, what? Ashley's eyes went distant. He had pictures, videos, stuff from when you're too high to know what's happening. He'd send screenshots. Say he'd show your family. I nodded, slow. That was enough. That night I didn't sleep. Just stared at the ceiling fan turning above me and thought, this isn't just a guy who sells pills. This is a guy who grooms addicts into mules and blackmails them to keep them in line. And the cops had tossed my binder in a drawer. That was fine. They'd get another copy. But first, I needed to find one more name. A survivor. Someone who knew the operation from the inside. Someone with nothing left to lose. I found him behind a liquor store on the south side, trying to light a damp cigarette with a Bic lighter that barely sparked. His name was Joey Fields, 19, rail thin, skin pale enough to see the veins in his neck like subway lines. He looked like what you'd get if you asked AI to generate a face called Too Young to Die. Joey had overdosed 6 weeks before Megan. Made it somehow. EMTs hit him with 2 doses of Narcan in the back of a Dollar General, and he came back gasping like someone waking from a grave. It made the papers, well, the crime blotter section no one reads. Ashley had mentioned him. Said Joey used to run for Colton until he got sloppy. Said Colton let him OD because he'd become bad optics. That phrase stuck in my teeth like a popcorn kernel. I approached slow. Didn't want him bolting? You Joey. He glanced up, wary. Depends who's asking. I'm Megan Mercer's brother. That name landed like a slap. He looked away. Didn't know her real well. She died 2 weeks ago. He swallowed. Yeah. I heard. I waited. Let the silence get heavy. I just want to talk, I said. Not a cop. Just her brother. He hesitated, then nodded at the curb. I sat. Asphalt was warm. Still smelled faintly of sun and motor oil. I ain't proud of what I did, Joey said finally. But I didn't kill her. I know. Colton did. He laughed. Bitter. Yeah. Well, that guy's like mold. Just spreads. No matter how many times you scrub. We talked for almost an hour. I didn't push. Just let him go at his own pace. What he gave me was gold, names, routes, drop times, even street corners they rotated through like clockwork. According to Joey, Colton worked with a guy named Reese who ran a pill press in an old detailing shop off of Cedar Avenue. They were pressing fentanyl-laced pills to look like Oxy 30s. Realistic enough that people were taking them by the handful. Half the time, we didn't even know how strong they were, Joey said. Colton just said, test it on a rookie. If they twitch, cut the next batch. I felt something behind my eyes sting. Not tears. Something hotter. You ever go to the cops? I asked. Joey barked a laugh. Yeah. Once. 2 years ago. Took me 3 days to get a call back. Then they said my statement was too inconsistent. One guy even asked me if I was just mad Colton kicked me out. He pulled up his shirt to show me a scar on his ribs. Looked like a burn mark. That's what I got for trying to quit. I asked him if I could record our conversation. He agreed. Said if it helped bring that smug parasite down, he'd go full podcast. I gave him $50 and a burner phone. Told him if he remembered anything else to text me. Later that night, I sat in my garage listening to the recording, headphones in, beer untouched. Joey's voice crackled through the feed, listing every dirty corner of Colton's little empire. I copied the files. Backed them up. Printed a transcript. Then I packed everything into a manila envelope and mailed it to Scranton PD. Attention, Narcotics Division. No reply. No knock on my door. No case number. They were ignoring me again. But I wasn't doing this for them anymore. I just weaponized a voice no one else wanted to hear. I started calling it The Wall, even though it was just the side of my garage where the insulation never got finished. A patchwork of drywall and exposed studs, and now a battlefield. Photos, pushpins, string. Notes scribbled in Sharpie on gas station receipts and taped up oil change invoices. I wasn't playing detective. I was planning a funeral for complacency. Each red pin was an overdose. Black ones were fatal. Blue meant a confirmed connection to Colton through texts, Venmo, survivor interviews, or locations matched against Megan's drop history. Within 3 weeks, it looked like someone had dropped a box of crayons across northeast Scranton. But the pattern wasn't random. It was methodical. Joey's info matched Megan's old texts almost perfectly. Drop spots weren't random addresses, they were clustered near low-income housing, halfway homes, and bus stops. Places where people couldn't afford a cab, let alone a habit. Colton didn't just sell to addicts, he hunted them. And the more I learned, the more personal it got. Megan had texted Colton 3 days before she died. The message read, "This stuff made me dizzy. Are you sure it's the same?" He replied with a thumbs-up emoji and "just drink water. You'll be fine." I printed it. Pinned it dead center on the wall. I didn't know what I was becoming, but it wasn't the man I used to be. 8 years clean, and I hadn't once considered a drink, not even a cigarette, since the funeral. But now I woke up every morning with an itch under my skin. Not for drugs. For justice. Or revenge. I wasn't sure there was still a difference. I brought the evidence again to the cops. This time I wore a shirt with a collar and used the words civil liability and press inquiry. The desk sergeant looked annoyed. The detective I spoke to, different one this time, pretended to be interested, said he'd pass it along. I left the packet with a receipt request. 2 weeks later, nothing. Not a call, not a letter. That's when I started talking to people who didn't wear badges. Narcotics Anonymous. A grief group for mothers who'd lost kids. Even an old guy who used to run with a biker crew and now volunteered at a homeless shelter. I started showing them parts of the wall. Not all of it, just enough to earn trust. One by one, they started giving me more. A woman named Cheryl lost her son last winter. OD'd after 2 months clean. She gave me his phone. Said she couldn't bear to look at it, but thought maybe I could. Sure enough, there was a text thread with a guy named Blaze. That was Colton's name in Megan's group chat. Another mother gave me her son's journal. Inside, notes about pickup times and a sketch of a place labeled RNR Auto Spa. The detailing shop Reese ran, the one Joey mentioned. The web was tightening. And yet the people who should have cared weren't budging. Which was fine. If the system didn't want the truth, I'd give it to someone who did. But first, I needed more than names and strings on drywall. I needed evidence they couldn't ignore, even if they wanted to. Survivor stories are messy. They're not clean, or heroic, or TV movie ready. They're stuttered memories, half-truths, gaps filled with trauma, and the constant smell of stale coffee and sweat. But they're real. And if you listen long enough, they give you what you need. Her name was Tasha. 24. I met her through Cheryl, the mom who gave me her son's phone. Tasha had lived with Megan for a while. Said she couch-surfed between dealers and safe houses, a phrase that made me want to punch a hole through drywall. Colton had been one of them. I drove 2 hours out of town to meet her. She wouldn't come to Scranton. Said she couldn't. I didn't ask why. I've learned not to dig into the kind of reasons that make people disappear. We met in a diner that looked like it hadn't been renovated since Clinton's first term. I bought her coffee and kept the recorder in my pocket running. Didn't tell her. Pennsylvania's a one-party consent state. Look it up. Tasha was jittery, eyes darting to the window every few minutes, fingers tapping her styrofoam cup like she was trying to Morse code her anxiety. But when she spoke, her voice was clear. Tired, but clear. Colton made us carry purses with false bottoms, she said. He'd give us a pack of pills, sometimes 2, and we'd go on foot. He said we had the right look. What does that mean? She gave a weak smile. White. Skinny. Sad. I didn't write that down. I didn't need to. It burned itself into memory. He used to make us post on dating apps, she continued. Swipe until someone messaged, then offer a hangout with extras. If they knew what that meant, it became a deal. And if they didn't matter. We still had to show up. He said we were just the commercial. I felt sick. Not angry. Not even sad. Just contaminated. She gave me names. 2 I already had. One was new, Reese's younger cousin, Devin. A minor, 17, already with a felony sealed for possession with intent. I asked her if she'd testify. She shook her head. Can't. I've got 2 strikes. 1 more and I'm out. You mean prison? No, she said and tapped her temple. Gone. I gave her my burner number. Told her if she needed anything, she could call. She said thanks but didn't promise anything. Survivors don't make promises. They've had too many broken on them already. After I got home, I transcribed everything. Added it to the file. Then I contacted a guy I knew from way back, Tommy, a private investigator who used to drink in the same bar I got sober in. Ex-cop, sharp as hell, hated the system that chewed him up and spat him out. I sent him a PDF of everything I had and asked him how much it would cost to get drone footage of RNR Auto Spa and confirm what we both already suspected. His reply came 2 hours later, $300 and 1 bottle of Jameson, unopened, for my shelf. I'm sober now too. Deal. Within 5 days, I had aerial photos. Trucks coming and going. People entering through the back door. One shot of Reese wheeling in a crate that looked suspiciously like a portable pill press setup. The picture was complete. And now it was time to make someone see it. If you ever want to feel like you're screaming underwater, try reporting a drug ring to the DEA. There's a website, sleek, clinical, full of drop-down menus and required fields. I filled it all out. Names, dates, addresses, Joey's story, Tasha's transcript, drone footage, payment logs, photos of pills. I even attached my own write-up, 12 pages long, labeled and footnoted like a damn thesis. Hit submit. Got an automated response that said, "Thank you for your tip. Your information will be reviewed. Please do not respond to this message." No case number. No contact. Just a digital shrug in .html. Fine. I printed everything. 3 full copies. One went in a fireproof safe under my workbench. One I mailed certified to the DA regional office in Philly. And the third, that one was for the press. See, Scranton has this local reporter, Lena Garvey. Covers crime, opioids, public corruption. She's a bulldog in a cardigan. Once did a whole expose on a city-funded rehab center that was kicking out patients for being too poor to bill insurance. I helped her jumpstart her car 2 winters ago when her Civic died outside the grocery store. She gave me her card, said, "You ever have a story that matters, call me." So I did. She picked up on the second ring. "Lena Garvey. David Mercer. I fixed your Civic in the Price Chopper lot." Long pause. "I remember. You said something about a slow crank, turned out to be the starter." "That's the one." Another pause. "Why are you calling?" "I have a story that matters." I didn't pitch it. I just told her, my sister's dead, no one's investigating, and I've got the receipts, literally. She agreed to meet the next morning at a diner on the edge of town. Different one. Less nostalgic grief this time. When I showed her the file, she didn't say much. Just kept flipping through pages, nodding mouth tight. Every so often she'd underline something with her thumb. She asked for copies. I handed her a flash drive. Said it's all in there plus backups. Nothing edited. She looked me dead in the eye. "You want anonymity?" I thought about it. The quiet life. The garage. The safety. No. I want my sister's name said out loud. 2 days later, the story hit the front page, ignored, addicted, exploited, how a Scranton man built the case the cops wouldn't touch. There was a picture of Megan smiling in a sunlit kitchen holding a mug of tea. My favorite photo of her. She looked alive. By noon, it was picked up by 3 national outlets. People started sharing the piece. Local talk radio ran a segment. The city council issued a statement about evaluating internal responses to public health crises. But the best part? That afternoon, I got a call from a 215 number. "Mr. Mercer, this is Agent Thorne with the DEA's Diversion Control Division. We've received multiple credible reports related to your sister's death and subsequent activity in Scranton. Would you be available for a statement?" I didn't yell. Didn't cheer. I just looked up at the wall in my garage, covered now in lines and pins and grief, and whispered finally. Agent Thorne showed up in an unmarked SUV with a younger agent in tow, Donovan, I think. Clean cut. Military posture. Both of them wore the same look, tired but wired. Like they'd seen too much and were always waiting for the next fire to put out. They met me at the garage after hours. I cleared off the lift bay and pulled up 2 stools. Offered coffee. They declined. Thorne started with formalities. Badge flash. Recorder turned on. Standard stuff. Then he said off the record, "This is the most complete civilian case file I've ever seen." I didn't smile. Tends to happen when someone you love dies and nobody gives a damn. He nodded. Didn't argue. Just opened his binder and got to work. For the next 2 hours, I walked them through everything, every name, every photo, every timestamp. I showed them Joey's map of drop zones. Tasha's transcript. The drone footage Tommy pulled of Reese wheeling crates through the back of RNR Auto Spa. They asked questions. Took notes. When I showed them the Venmo trail that connected Colton to 2 known dealers in Wilkes-Barre, one of whom was already on the DA radar, Donovan actually muttered, "Jesus Christ. This isn't just a local ring," I said. "He's a feeder for a regional distro network." "You're not wrong," Thorne replied. "We've had eyes on Wilkes-Barre for a year. Your sister's case might give us jurisdictional leverage." He said it like that, jurisdictional leverage. Not justice, not closure. But I didn't correct him. I didn't care what they called it as long as someone kicked the goddamn door in. Before they left, Thorne said, "We'll need you to stay quiet. No contact with subjects. No press." I almost laughed. Bit late for that. He didn't push it. By the end of the week, everything cracked open. Lena's story spread like wildfire. A follow-up piece aired on the local news and the city couldn't ignore it anymore. Council members gave quotes. The mayor promised accountability. And most importantly, someone inside the police department leaked a memo. It landed in my inbox anonymously. The memo was dated 3 days after Megan's death. It detailed concerns of increasing press activity surrounding civilian-submitted data involving narcotics trafficking. It mentioned my name. And then, in bold, advise all personnel not to comment on the Mercer file. Chain of command approval required before engaging federal agencies. Translation, they knew. And they buried it. Lena published it 2 days later under the headline, City Hall knew. Leaked memo suggests police suppressed fentanyl case involving local woman's death. That was the tipping point. By Friday, the DA raided R&R Auto Spa. Colton wasn't there. But Reese was. They found the pill press. Found packaging. Found 2 pounds of fake Percocets loaded with fentanyl. Enough to kill half of Scranton. Colton ran. I knew he would. The kind of rat he is, you only catch cornered. But this time, the system was finally awake. And he was officially being hunted. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt, still, like the world had finally started turning again and I was just trying not to fall off. When it finally made the evening news, Colton's mugshot, Dateline, Missouri, I didn't cheer. Didn't even flinch. I just stood in my kitchen, dish towel in one hand, watching his swollen, busted face stare back at me like a cartoon villain who ran out of plot armor. They caught him in a Red Roof Inn outside of St. Louis. DA Task Force Joint Op. Apparently, he'd been using the same alias he'd once used on Megan's lease application. Idiot never imagined someone would follow the paper trail he left like a breadcrumb buffet. The arrest report said he was found with forged IDs, $12,000 in cash, and a burner phone full of contacts linked to other cities on the I-81 corridor. The press called it a significant arrest in the fight against synthetic opioid distribution. I called it Tuesday. He pled not guilty. Of course he did. His lawyer claimed entrapment, said Colton was framed by an emotionally unstable individual with a personal vendetta. That was me, by the way. I made the papers. So did Megan. Our family photo, blurry and 10 years old, showed up on CNN's website under the headline, The Civilian Who Helped Crack a Fentanyl Pipeline. It felt surreal. Like I was watching someone else's life. Someone cleaner. Braver. I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like a tired mechanic who hadn't slept right in months. What surprised me most was what came after. A state-level investigation was launched into Scranton PD's mishandling of drug complaints. That leaked memo? It wasn't the only one. Turns out a lieutenant in Vice had been sitting on at least 3 separate reports from mothers who'd filed complaints about Colton's crew. 2 had children who died. 1 had overdosed after she filed. The department issued a statement, procedural breakdowns. Staffing shortages. Unintended oversights. Bullshit in a bow tie. The lieutenant retired 2 weeks later. Early. Full pension. Lena wrote her next headline, Early Retirement or Early Escape. Scranton Vice under fire. She won an award for that article. She tried to credit me in her speech. I declined. Told her this wasn't about credit. It was about consequence. That same month, Cheryl called me in tears. Her son had been officially cleared posthumously. His record expunged. The arrest tied to distribution was dropped from the books. She said she could finally look at his picture without shame. I didn't say anything. Just listened while she cried. Tasha disappeared. Last I heard, she moved out west. She left a voicemail before she left. I didn't think anyone would believe me. You did. That saved more than you know. Then the line cut out. Sometimes I replay that message when the house gets too quiet. I kept working at the garage. Jimmy never brought it up except one day when he looked at me over a busted carburetor and said, "You did right by her." That was all. And me? I started rebuilding Megan's car. The old Civic with the dented door she never fixed. I cleaned out the trunk, reupholstered the seats, even bought a new stereo. It wasn't about the car. It was about making something broken whole again. Even if I wasn't. A month after the trial, I finally visited her. The real her, not the box of ashes, not the framed photo on the courthouse slideshow. The stone. Carved too cleanly. Megan Lynn Mercer. 1994 to 2023. Loved fiercely. Lost unfairly. I brought a cup of gas station coffee black. Her favorite. Set it next to the flowers already wilted from last week's storm. I didn't say anything right away. Just stood there with my hands in my pockets and let the wind fill the silence. The plea deal put Colton away for 22 years. Possession with intent. Distribution resulting in death. Federal time, no early release. The judge called his crimes calculated cruelty masked by casual charm. When they read the sentence, he didn't flinch. Just looked down at his cuffed hands like he still couldn't believe someone like me could put him there. The funny thing is, I didn't feel anything when the gavel dropped. No closure. No thrill. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after the fire. The house is quiet now too. I kept it. Could have sold it, moved on, vanished somewhere like Tasha did. But something about staying mattered. Like planting your feet after a storm and daring the wind to try again. I volunteer once a week at the same halfway house that helped Megan dry out the first time. Fix broken faucets. Replace busted smoke detectors. Sometimes I just sit on the back steps with the guys and listen. Not as a counselor. Not even as a success story. Just as someone who knows how long the dark can last before you remember where the light switch is. There's a kid there, Marcus, barely 20, fresh out of jail. He reminds me of Joey. Skinny, twitchy, sharp. The kind of kid nobody expects to make it. The kind they label repeat offender before he ever has a chance to prove them wrong. Last week he said, "Hey, Mr. Mercer, how come you keep coming back here?" I didn't have a clean answer. I never do. But I said this because somebody didn't give up on me. And I owe that forward. He didn't say anything. Just nodded. But the way he looked at me. I think it landed. Every now and then I get letters. Emails. Messages from people I've never met. Mothers, brothers, daughters. Some just say thank you. Some send me names. Some just send silence, and somehow that says the most. The wall in my garage is still there. I thought about taking it down, but I didn't. It's not a monument anymore. It's a reminder. That grief isn't just something you feel, it's something you build from. And if you build it right, it can stand taller than the pain. The other day, the wind blew my back door open. Scout, my German shepherd, barked once, then curled back up. I stood in the doorway for a while, listening to the trees, to the creek out back, to the quiet. Stillness. Not silence. Megan would have liked that.